kids to be weird, do you? Ew, who wants to spend that much time with their kids? But what about socialization? How can you homeschool? You're not a teacher. Hey everyone, I'm Sierra and I want to share with you about how we accidentally became homeschoolers. I'm a homeschool mom of 3 kids, ages 9, 11, and 13, and we are going to be starting our 6th year of homeschooling this fall. Now, I will tell you, I never planned to homeschool. I was really against homeschooling, not necessarily for other people, but just for myself. I did not see myself as someone who would homeschool. I had 3 kids back to back. They're all 2 years apart. And I remember being in the throes of young motherhood with a baby and a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old and thinking to myself, I cannot wait for the day when all of them are in school and I can breathe again. I can have free time. I couldn't wait. I thought, that's when I'll know that I've made it as a mom. When all 3 of my kids are in school, I have time to myself during the day, it's gonna be amazing. I also had big plans. I have had a photography business for 13 years now, and I was building it. I had big plans for my business. I was actually doing really well in my business the year right before we decided to homeschool. And I was planning to continue building it and throwing myself into my entrepreneurship and building my business, and God had other plans for us. I'll rewind to when my oldest was kindergarten age. I was so excited. My middle daughter was preschool age, and so I was able to go enroll her in a preschool, and she attended for 1 day. She said, I will not go to preschool, that's not for me. And that's a story for another time. But my oldest loved kindergarten. She had an incredible kindergarten teacher. We loved her. She thrived. She learned so much. She made friends. She had fun every single day. And so we continued with that public school for 1st grade and then 2nd grade. When she was in 2nd grade, my middle daughter started kindergarten. Again, it was a great experience. They loved it. They thrived in the public school setting. At that time, my youngest was preschool age, and so I had enrolled him in preschool. And in 2019, I had what I had always imagined would be this blissful situation, alignment of the stars, where each of my 3 kids was in school. Now, my preschooler only went to school 2 days a week, and so it wasn't a lot of time to myself, but it was enough. And if you've had 3 kids back to back or more or less, you know how incredible even just a few hours a week to yourself is. It's pretty amazing. So I was living that dream. It was what I thought was going to be our life. And looking back now, I can see that there were a lot of parts of that situation for our family that didn't actually work as well as I had thought that they would. So even though my kids were thriving and having a great time in school, their home time really wasn't that great. They were cranky. They were overly tired. Our mornings were so rushed. To get up and out in the morning was chaos. Chaos is the best word for it. And if you have kids in school, you know what that is like. It's chaos. I am not a morning person either. And so that chaos coupled with it being, 6, 7 o'clock in the morning was not great for me. But that was something that I didn't love. And I was like thinking to myself, wow, am I really going to do this for the next, 12 years? Getting up and having our Monday through Friday just be this frantic mad dash to get everyone to their respective schools. And so that was definitely something in the back of my mind that I was like, ooh, I don't love this. And then also I remember that first summer, I guess it was the summer between my oldest going to 1st grade and then to 2nd grade. And so she had been used to being gone for, 8 hours a day. And that summer, my kids were just butting heads like they had never butt heads before. They were not getting along. And they'd always been children who really got along well and had played together nicely and wanted to do things together. And the conflict was just outrageous. And I think a big part of that is that they spent so much less time together that they really stopped knowing each other on that same level that that kids do when they're together all the time. I think that they stopped being able to read each other as well. So I remember that being really something that stuck with me a lot. But again, I was thriving in my business. My kids seemed happy, and so continuing with public school was always our plan. In 2019, we had made the decision for our family that we were going to move from California to Texas. There was a lot that went into that decision. So 2020 hit, we were supposed to move in June of 2020, and we all know what happened that year. So we did end up moving in June of 2020. I had enrolled my children in the public school that was in the neighborhood we moved to, and I was all ready and set for my son to go to preschool, my middle daughter to go to first grade, and my oldest daughter to go to third grade. And as you know, there were certain requirements at that time that I felt very uncomfortable with. I felt uncomfortable with the idea of my children going into a school environment in a new state and not knowing anybody and having everyone's faces covered, if you know what I mean. And I just was thinking, how are they going to make friends? How are they going to meet people? It felt very uncomfortable to me. And so I think 3 weeks before the school year was supposed to start, I unenrolled them. And thankfully here in Texas, there's not a lot that you have to do. You just have to inform the school district that you are going to be homeschooling your children, and that's it. So I did that. I let them know we are no longer sending our children to your school. And I'm going to be homeschooling them. And I dove in. I had no idea what I was doing. This is not something I'd ever planned to do. I felt clueless. I spent so many hours here on YouTube watching different homeschool videos, curriculum videos, trying to figure out what's going to be the best fit for my family. And looking back now, I don't recommend that. I should have taken a chill pill and taken a few months to try and figure out what was going to work for our family. I ended up spending about $1,000 on curriculum that I ended up not using because I felt the need to just get something, just to decide on something and have something ready so that when August rolled around and public school was starting, my kids had curriculum and had something to do. And I kind of regret that decision, but I think when you're a new homeschool mom, you don't actually know what you're doing and you just jump in. So that's what I did. Some things that I noticed pretty early on were just the fact that my children's relationships were coming back together, if that makes sense. Their sibling bond reformed, and there had sort of been this wall between them, especially my two oldest, who are girls. And I feel like that wall just crumbled and they went back to being so close and playing together all the time and laughing and giggling. And that just like warmed my heart. There were so many beautiful blessings from homeschooling that I did not expect. When I had originally thought of homeschooling, I had only thought about it in the academic sense and thinking, okay, academically, is homeschooling better or is public school better? If the public schools in your area are highly rated and good, and the teachers are nice, why wouldn't you send your kids there? That was kind of my line of thinking. And I had not thought about the bigger picture and how doing school and life with your children at home and also out in the world, school does not have to be just at home. I hadn't thought about how life-changing that can be. And it definitely has changed our lives. It's completely changed our lives. As a result of deciding to homeschool, my children's relationships with each other have grown stronger. My relationship with my children has grown so strong. My oldest is 13 now, and none of those stereotypical teenage daughter, mother things apply to us. Our relationship is incredible. And my relationship with all three of my kids is incredible, but I think as moms, we always kind of dread that teenage time. And I think middle school, especially public middle school, can be really, really hard for girls, for all kids, but I think for girls it can be really hard. And I think homeschooling has really made that middle school time for my girls easy. They have incredible friends. We're a part of a co-op that's amazing. They're a part of Scouts. My son is in Scouts. They have friends. My oldest daughter played soccer for years and years. She's recently moved on to other things, but there are so many avenues for socializing your kids and getting them to form relationships with their peers outside of a traditional school setting. Another thing that I've loved about homeschooling is really kind of being able to have more of a handle on who my children are around and make sure that their lives are full of good influences. We're a part of a really big homeschooling community here, and there are so many incredible families who are really involved in their children's lives, kids who have great morals, great values, are kind, loving. All of the girls that we have come across that are in that middle school age range who are homeschooled are sweet and kind and uplifting. And my kids have been able to build these friendships with other children that are homeschooled, where the friendship is about building each other up, having fun with each other, enriching each other's lives, teaching each other things, learning from each other. And there isn't that same bullying, peer pressure situation that I think does happen in public school. So for me, I definitely felt that when I was in public school as a kid, and I did go to highly rated schools. I wouldn't say I had a negative experience in public schools, but there was definitely that bullying aspect, that peer pressure, that kind of desire to try to fit in. And I think homeschoolers don't necessarily have that to the same extent. My kids are able to be individuals. They have their hobbies that they like. That might not be something that, you know, a typical middle schooler would think would be cool, but they are able to do the things that bring them joy without judgment, and it's incredible. So even though we accidentally started homeschooling, we're going to be approaching our 6th year of homeschooling, and I cannot see another road for our family. We have so much freedom now to do the things that we want to do as a family, to travel, to explore, to go to museums and national parks and different things during the school year, midweek, when they're not crowded, they're not busy. My kids can learn the things that they want to learn. They can research topics that interest them. They can write papers on things that they feel really passionate about. They can read the books that are about things that they love, or, you know, genres that maybe they wouldn't have been assigned in public school or a traditional school setting, but they can explore those. I feel so passionate now about homeschooling, and it's really funny because I've definitely felt the complete opposite about homeschooling back when my kids were little. And I'm so thankful that things happened the way they did, and I truly felt that the Lord led us to homeschool. Like it was not my plan. It was 100% not my plan, and it's the best thing that's happened for our family. So from here on out, we do plan to continue to homeschool. My oldest is going to be in 8th grade, so I think once we hit high school, I'm sure we'll reevaluate, but I do think that we will continue to homeschool. I do ask my children every year if they want to explore other options, and so far every year that we've talked about it, they've wanted to continue to homeschool. So we are really blessed that we live in an area where there are a lot of homeschool resources. There are co-ops, there are charter schools that allow you to homeschool, but then send your kids 2 days a week. There are so many clubs and groups, and even just groups for play dates and hanging out, craft clubs, sports clubs. There's a lot for homeschoolers here. So it's interesting that homeschooling was not our plan, and we moved to an area where it is extremely easy and incredible to homeschool. I meet homeschool families all the time, just like at the store or at the park, and it's incredible. So anyway, that's our story about how we accidentally became homeschoolers and why we love it so much. Please hit the subscribe button. I'm going to be posting a lot more homeschool content about our life together, our travels, hobbies, curriculum, all of the homeschool goodies. Bye.